Hello, this is Slow Night, Ancient Tales. Tonight's story to share with you is the classic novel, The Tale of Dae-bong. Please lay down your complex thoughts for a moment and allow yourself to relax into the comfortable rhythm of an old tale. May your night be safe and peaceful. The Tale of Dae-bong, Volume 1. During the Great Ming Dynasty, in the era of Chenghua, it was the third year of Emperor Xiaozong's reign. At this time in Morandong in the land of Giju, there lived a distinguished man of high lineage, whose surname was Li and given name was Eek. He was the great-grandson of Left Minister Yongjun and the son of Minister of Rights Daokyeon. As a descendant of a great Ming family, he ascended to high office early, holding the position of Vice Minister of Rights, and his fame echoed throughout the royal court. However, because he had not even one drop of blood to follow him under his knee, the ancestral rites and offerings at his family shrine would cease. Thus he had no thoughts of wealth or desire for high status, looking up to heaven and sighing. His wife, Lady Yang, also lamented her childlessness and passed the days in tears. One day, she said to the sarong, her husband, "They say among the 3,000 acts of impiety, having no descendants is the greatest. Your lack of children, my husband, is all due to my sins." As they were expressing their sorrow to each other, on one particular day, an old monk wearing a black robe and carrying a staff with 9 joints entered the outer room, holding an 8-sided turban on his head. He gave a ritual greeting before the sarong, who returned the greeting and asked, "Venerable sir, at which temple do you reside, and what brings you to this humble abode?" The old monk replied, "This humble monk resides at Baekun Hermitage on Mount Gumhwa in the land of Tianzhu. Since the temple is dilapidated and the Buddha statue cannot escape the wind and rain, I came seeking donations. As I travel the 4 corners of the world, I arrived at your excellency's home. Please make an offering." Sarong said, "If I were to rebuild the temple, how much wealth would be needed for the restoration?" The old monk replied, "Is there much or little wealth involved? I will accept whatever your excellency sees fit." Sarong said, "I am a grave sinner, my years are half spent, and yet I have not even one drop of blood to guide the path ahead or follow behind. After my death, even if my bones become white, who will gather them? The ancestral rites will cease. When I return to the Yellow Springs after death, how can I face my ancestors? With what face can I face my parents? I am a sinner against my ancestors and an evil ghost in the underworld. To whom shall I pass on this wealth? I will donate to the Buddha to prepare the path for my next life." Then, taking the donation cloth, he offered 500 taels of gold, 300 sacks of white rice, and 3,000 yellow candles. The old monk received the donation, expressed his gratitude, and said, "I have come far and obtained a non-negligible amount of wealth to protect the Buddha statue. I will never forget your grace. Sirang, please do not grieve about having no children." And suddenly, he disappeared. Sirang realized only then that it was a Buddha, and coming down to the hall, he prayed toward the empty air, saying, "I pray that the Buddha will grant me a child." He offered countless prayers. Thinking about this event with his wife, Lady Yang, they hoped a child might be granted by heaven's grace. Indeed, from that month she conceived. When the 10 months had passed, one day she became weary in body and dozed on the bedding. In a half-dream state, a pair of phoenixes descended from heaven. The Bong, male phoenix, flew into his wife's lap, and the Huang, female phoenix, flew into the home of Hanlim Jiang in Jiangmidong. When he woke, the house was filled with fragrance and colorful clouds lingered. Emerging from a trace of a dream, she gave birth. It was a bright baby boy. Sarong was greatly rejoiced and examined the child. He had a high nose and phoenix eyes shaped like a phoenix's eyes, and his voice was the sound of a phoenix. Remembering his wife's dream, he named the child Dae-bong, Great Phoenix. Gaxiel setting this aside. Meanwhile, in Jiangmidong in Giju, there was a man named Zhang Hua. He ascended to high office early, holding the position of Hanlim, an academic official. His fame echoed throughout the court, and his wealth was great, but he was in his 40th year and had no children between sons and daughters. He and his wife, Lady So, passed the days in sorrow. Lady So suddenly conceived. When the 10 months had passed, one day she became weary in body, leaned on the bedding, and dozed. In a half-dream state, a pair of phoenixes descended from heaven. The bong went to Vice Minister Li's house in Morandong, and the huang flew into her lap. As the saying goes, where a bong is born, a huang follows, and where a general is born, a dragon horse is born. Fragrances filled the room, colorful clouds lingered, and emerging from a trace of a dream, she gave birth. This was a nuang, female phoenix, diva phoenix. When she told Hanlim Zhang about her dream, he was greatly rejoiced and named her A Huang, Love Phoenix. He immediately went to Vice Minister Li's house in Morandong and found that Li's wife had also been relieved of her burden, given birth. He private engaged and called Sirang to converse. Zhang asked, "When was your wife relieved of her burden?" Li replied, "I had a son yesterday at the hour of Sa, 9:11 a.m., but Hanlim, you and I are childhood friends. We ascended to the Dragon Gate, succeeded in high office, together, and support the state with wealth and honor. Our fame echoes, but I lamented our lack of children. Then by heaven's grace I had a child, but you still do not have even one child between sons and daughters, which makes me very distressed." Zhang replied, "I, too, had a daughter yesterday at the hour of Sa. It is truly wonderful. Among those with deep definition of true righteousness between us, this is truly wondrous." Hanlim shared his wife's dream, and Sarang rejoiced greatly and immediately went into the inner room and told Zhang Hanlim's wife's dream to Lady Yang. Lady Yang also spoke of her own dream. Both wives' dreams were identical. Sarang came to the outer room, sat with Hanlim and smiled, saying, "This is truly an affinity tied by the Supreme Emperor in heaven. The year, month, day, and hour do not differ by even 1 point. When these two children grow, let's pair them like phoenixes, make them a matching set of phoenixes, and achieve the joy of mandarin ducks, seeing our sunset year's enjoyment." They drank together all day long, enjoying themselves. When the evening sun was about to set, Hanlim returned home and told his wife about Lady Li's dream and how he had decided to engage his daughter to Sarang's son, Dae-bong. His wife was also pleased. At this time, Sarang went into the inner room and said, "I took Zhang Hanlim's daughter, Ai Wang, and decided to engage her to our son, Dae-bong. It is truly our family's good fortune." Lady Yang was also pleased. Both families awaited the phoenixes growing up, looking forward to the engagement. That is all for the story prepared for tonight. The deep connection between these two people, born holding the energy of phoenixes, seems to extend long and faintly, like the starlight in the night sky. Within the lingering echo of the story, I support your deep and restful night. Good night.